People often say, the human heart is colder than the winter wind, and nowhere is that saying more bitterly true than inside Jason's $10 million mansion. To the outside world, it is a castle of success and happiness. But behind closed doors, where soundproof walls swallow every sob, a cruel crime is unfolding every single day. Miss Mary, the mother who sold her entire life away, soaking her hands in freezing river water for 40 years to raise her son to success, is now being forced by her beautiful future daughter-in-law to eat leftovers off the floor like an animal. Michelle thinks she is the queen of this house. She believes her husband is too busy making money to see the bruises on his mother's arms. But she is dead wrong. She has no idea that on the 3rd floor, inside a secret security room, a pair of tear-filled eyes, red with rage, has recorded everything. And the fury about to descend upon her head won't be a simple slap. It will be total destruction. This isn't just a story about a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law. This is a verdict of conscience for those who bite the hand that feeds them, and the ultimate proof that, when you touch a man's mother, you are awakening a monster. If you are listening from anywhere in the world, please leave a comment and subscribe, because there are truths that need to be spread, even if they might shake your beliefs. There are stories that, no matter how painful, must be told. The sun beat down like lead on her back, burning through the thin fabric of her dress, while she scrubbed and scrubbed on the rough river rocks. "Harder, Mary!" screamed Mrs. Peterson, the boss back then, a bitter woman watching from the shade of a mesquite tree. "That grease stain isn't going to come out with little caresses. Scrub like you have guts." And Mary had guts. She had a dull rage stuck in her throat, but she couldn't let it out. By the time she was 30, she already carried the weight of a sick husband and a small son. Jason, barely 5 years old, was tied to her back with a shawl that had more patches than original fabric. The boy cried. It wasn't a tantrum cry. It was the dry, constant cry of hunger, that sound that drills into a mother's soul more than any insult. "It's okay, my baby. It's okay," whispered Mary with lips cracked by thirst, putting her hands into the freezing water that turned red because the lye soap had opened the cracks in her knuckles again. That night, Destiny finished twisting in her old wooden shack, where the wind whistled, slipping through the cracks of the poorly made walls. Frank, her husband, coughed on the cot. It wasn't a normal cough. It was a wet, tearing sound, as if something were breaking inside him. Mary heated the last biscuit on the griddle, broke it in two, and gave it to Jason. She said she wasn't hungry, even though her stomach roared like a wild animal. Mary called Frank with a threat of a voice. He was pale, sweating cold. "I'm here, old man. Don't waste money on medicine," he said, grabbing her hand with desperate strength. "Save the pennies for the boy. I have no remedy." "Shut up," she screamed, crying for the first time that day. "You're going to get cured. Tomorrow I'll sell the chickens." But death doesn't wait for one to sell the chickens. Frank died that morning, drowning in his own blood, leaving Mary alone, a widow, and with a child who depended on her not to die too. In front of her husband's body, Mary didn't crumble. She dried her tears with her shawl and looked at the old wooden cross nailed to the dirt wall. "I swear to you, Lord," she whispered, with a voice of steel. "My son won't be a laborer. My son won't die of hunger or cold. My son is going to be a king, even if I have to leave my life on the stones of the river." And so it was. The next 40 years were a blur of pain and sacrifice. Mary became the washerwoman of the town. She washed other people's clothes, made bread to sell, scrubbed floors on her knees until she couldn't straighten up. There were days she ate leftovers. There were days she didn't eat. All the money went into a tin coffee can hidden under the mattress for Jason's school. Jason grew up seeing his mother work like a beast of burden. "I'm going to be an engineer, Mom," he promised, one day coming home from school with torn shoes but with an A+ in math. "And I'm going to get you out of here. I'm going to buy you a house where the cold doesn't get in." Mary did her part. She paid for the university, paid for the books, paid for life in the city. Jason left, succeeded, became an important man, but Mary stayed. And the dust of Arizona, that fine and treacherous dust, stayed in her lungs. Now, at 65 years old, Mary was sitting on the edge of her bed. A violent cough shook her, doubling her over at the waist. She felt the metallic taste of blood in her mouth, covered herself with a handkerchief, and saw the red spots. The town doctor, a young and honest boy, had told her without beating around the bush that morning. "Miss Mary, your lungs are full of scars. The smoke from the firewood and the cold of the desert are killing you. If you spend another winter here, you won't wake up. You have to go to a temperate place, to a sealed house with care." It was then that the old flip phone rang. That Motorola that had the keys worn off. "Mom." Jason's voice sounded strong, successful, distant. "I already talked to Michelle. You're coming to the city. I'm not going to let you die there alone anymore. Son, I don't want to be a burden. You two are newly engaged. None of that. Michelle is happy. She prepared the guest room herself. I'll pick you up tomorrow." Mary hung up and felt a mixture of joy and terror. She was going to see her son, but she was also going to insert herself into the life of a stranger. She packed her life in a cardboard egg box because she didn't have suitcases. She put in her 3 floral dresses, her good shawl, and her Bible. And then she got up at 3 inches the morning, coughing and with a fever, to kill her last rooster and make stew. She made meatloaf sandwiches wrapped in foil. "My son likes them," she thought while grinding the pepper, ignoring the pain in her chest. The bus ride was an 8-hour hell, but upon arriving in Phoenix, the noise and chaos stunned her. And there he was, Jason, brilliant in a navy blue suit, smelling of expensive cologne. "Mom." He hugged her without caring that she smelled of firewood and travel. They walked toward the exit, and then Mary saw the car, a massive, armored, black Cadillac Escalade, and inside her, Michelle. Her son's fiancé lowered the electric window slowly. She was beautiful, yes, but with a cold beauty, like a magazine, blonde, perfect, with dark sunglasses. She didn't get out to open the door for her. She didn't smile. "Hi," she said dryly, looking Mary up and down the worn-out sandals, the white braid, the cardboard box tied with rope. "Good morning, miss." "Nice to meet you," said Mary with humility. "Jason, be careful with that box," interrupted Michelle with a sharp voice. "The upholstery is cream Italian leather. If that dirty box scratches or stains it, I'll die. Put it in the trunk, but put plastic underneath it." Mary felt the first blow. She got into the car with difficulty, hugging her market bag with the sandwiches. Michelle wrinkled her perfect nose, sniffing the air like a bloodhound. "What is that smell?" she asked with disgust. "It smells like grease. Ugh, cheap food." "They are sandwiches, miss. I made them for Jason. Please, close that bag tightly. The smell impregnates the ceiling, and then my clients will think I'm a fast food worker." Michelle took out an expensive perfume and sprayed the air, causing Mary to have a coughing fit. "Cough, cough, sorry." "And that cough?" Michelle looked at her through the rearview mirror with contempt. "I hope it's not contagious. I don't have time to get sick." Mary made herself small in the leather seat. She looked out the window at the high buildings and understood, with a sharp pain in her heart, that she wasn't going to a home. She was going to war. It is heartbreaking to see a mother realize she is unwelcome, especially while her son sits right there, completely blinded by his own success and optimism. But this car ride is only the beginning of the humiliation. Once they cross the threshold of that pristine mansion, Mary will find that Michelle cares more about her marble floors than a mother's dignity. The journey toward Paradise Valley was a display of wealth that Mary couldn't even imagine. Houses that looked like fortresses, 10-foot walls, security cameras. Jason talked excitedly, pointing out everything, blind to the tension freezing the air inside the SUV. "We're here, Mom." The electric gate opened. The house was impressive, minimalist, all white concrete, glass, and steel. There wasn't a single flower, nor a leafy tree, only decorative stones and straight lines. "You get out, Mom. I'll get the box," said Jason. Mary got out. Her legs were numb. Michelle got out on the other side, brushing invisible lint off her linen pants. She walked toward the entrance without waiting for anyone. Mary followed her. Stepping onto the spotless marble of the entrance, her old sandals with tire-tread soles made a sharp noise. Squeak. Michelle stopped dead. She spun on her heels like a soldier. "Stop right there," she said, raising a hand. "Did you hear that, Jason?" "What thing, babe?" Jason came carrying the cardboard box with a smile. "Those shoes." Michelle pointed at Mary's feet with an accusing finger. "They are going to scratch the marble. Besides, they bring dirt from the town, mud, bacteria, who knows what else. We don't use street shoes inside here. Oh, right. Sorry, Mom. I forgot to tell you. They are house rules to take care of the floors, said Jason, a bit embarrassed. Mary felt her face burning with shame. She bent down with difficulty, her bones creaking, and took off her sandals. She remained standing on the welcome mat in her flesh-colored nylon socks, the ones that had a small hole in the big toe that she tried to hide by curling her foot. Here, put these on. Jason brought some white terry cloth slippers. Mary put them on. She felt ridiculous. She felt dirty. Let's go to your room, Ma. They went up the stairs. Mary held onto the glass railing, afraid of breaking it. Michelle went behind, watching. Careful with the wall, Jason. The box is very close to the drywall, warned Michelle at every step. They reached the end of the hallway. Jason opened a door. This is it. Mary entered. Her heart sank a little more. The room was small, clean, yes, but claustrophobic. It had a twin bed and a built-in closet. The worst thing was that it had no window, only a skylight in the ceiling way up there, letting in a cold, white light. It looked like a luxury cell or a glorified servant's room. Do you like it? Asked Jason, expecting approval. It's the quietest. Here no one will bother you with the noise of the street. It's very beautiful, son. Thank you. It's a palace. Jason left the cardboard box on the bed. I'm going to bring up the other bags from the grocery store. I'll be right back. Make yourselves comfortable. As soon as Jason left the room, the atmosphere changed drastically. Michelle entered and closed the door. She crossed her arms, her thin and tense figure filling the space. Miss Mary, she said with a soft but poisonous voice, let's make things clear from the beginning. Jason is a successful man. He kills himself working to maintain this standard of living. He doesn't need worries. I don't want to cause problems, miss. Then listen to me well. That cardboard box is horrible. It clashes with the whole house. I want you to put it at the back of the closet and not take it out. If you need to take out clothes, do it quickly and hide it again. I don't want my visitors to see that. Mary nodded, lowering her head. And another thing, Jason has a soft heart. If you start telling him your sad stories from the farm, that it hurts here or there, that you miss your chickens, you're going to depress him. You're going to distract him from his business, and if he gets distracted, he loses money. Do you want your son to lose money because of you? No, God forbid. Then, keep your mouth shut. Here you are to rest, not to provoke pity. If something hurts, take a pill and suck it up. Don't burden Jason. Understood? Yes, miss. Understood. Michelle smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Perfect. Oh, and the bathroom in this room has a trick. The handle has to be pulled twice. Don't call me for that nonsense. Michelle left, leaving a trail of expensive perfume. Mary was left alone in the windowless room. She sat on the hard bed, looked at her cardboard box, her only possession. She hugged it as if it were a person. Oh, Frank, she whispered, where have I ended up? She took out a cold sandwich from the bag, smelled it seeking comfort. A solitary tear fell on the foil. Mary wiped it quickly. She couldn't cry. If she cried, Jason would notice, and she had come to save herself, not to sink him. The first morning in the mansion was a disaster foretold. Mary, used to waking up with the rooster at 5 inches the morning, opened her eyes in the darkness of her windowless room. She didn't know what time it was. The silence of the house was absolute, only broken by the constant hum of the central air conditioning. She got up, washed her face with cold water, and put on her best dress, a navy blue one, with white flowers hand-embroidered on the collar. She put on her shawl and went out on tiptoes with the slippers on so as not to make noise. She wanted to be useful. She wanted to say thank you. She went down to the kitchen. It was a space laboratory. Everything shone. She looked for matches to light the stove, but the stove was a black glass plate without buttons. She looked for a cast-iron pot, but only found heavy cookware sets and Teflon pans that seemed like a sin to touch. I'm going to make a little coffee for my boy, thought Mary. That I do know how to do. She found the coffee machine, a chrome monster full of lights. Mary saw a compartment and thought it was for water. She saw another and thought it was for coffee. She treated it like her old coffee pot. She pulled a lever. Psh! A jet of boiling steam shot out like a dragon, followed by a gush of black water and ground coffee that exploded everywhere, staining the immaculate white granite countertop, the cabinets, and the floor. "Good Lord!" screamed Mary, stepping back, and burning her hand with the steam. In that instant, Michelle appeared in the kitchen entrance. She was wearing a champagne-colored silk robe and a hydrating mask on her face. Seeing the mess, her eyes opened disproportionately. "What are you doing?" Michelle's scream was so sharp that Mary dropped the porcelain cup she had in her hand. The cup fell and shattered against the floor. Michelle ran toward her, not to see if she was burned. She ran toward the countertop. "Imbecile. It's Italian granite. Coffee stains it. Move." Michelle pushed Mary with her hip, throwing her against the refrigerator. "Look what you did. This machine costs more than your whole house in the town." "Sorry, miss. Sorry. I just wanted—" "You don't have to want anything." Michelle grabbed a roll of paper towels and started cleaning frantically with fury. "Understand your place. You are not the maid. Don't touch anything. It seems like you do it on purpose to ruin my morning." Rapid footsteps were heard on the stairs. "What happened?" Jason's voice. In a millisecond, Michelle's face changed. The fury disappeared and was replaced by theatrical anguish. She turned toward Jason with her hands on her chest. "Oh, babe," she said with a trembling voice. "Your mom gave me such a scare. Poor thing. She wanted to use the machine and look, she almost burned her face. Everything exploded. I'm shaking. Babe, I thought she had hurt herself seriously." Jason looked at the mess and then at his mother, who was shrunk against the refrigerator, rubbing her red hand and crying silently. "Are you okay, Ma?" Jason went to her and checked her hand. "You burned yourself. It was my fault, son. I'm a fool. I broke the cup." Mary sobbed. "It's nothing, Mom. It's a cup. Come, let's put some ointment on you." Jason hugged her protectively. Michelle, behind Jason's back, threw Mary a look that said, "I warned you." "Yes, babe, take her," said Michelle. "I'll clean this disaster, but please tell her not to enter the kitchen alone again. It's dangerous for a person of her age and condition." Later that day, when Jason went to work, Michelle went up to Mary's room. She brought a plastic bag from a cheap store. "We have to talk about your clothes," she said dryly. Without preamble, Mary smoothed her embroidered dress. "What's wrong with my clothes, miss? It's traditional. Too much. It looks like a costume. Here, sometimes Jason's partners come. Worldly people. I don't want them to see Jason's mom dressed like that. They're going to think we don't take care of you." Michelle took out 2 sets of gray sweatpants. "Synthetic fabric. Cheap. Put this on. It's loungewear. It's what the ladies use here. And put away that shawl. It smells like smoke. But miss, my grandmother made this embroidery. It's my pride. Well, your pride stays in the closet. Here, you do what I say. Put on the sweatpants now." Mary took the gray clothes with trembling hands. She took off her dress full of colors and put on that sad gray uniform, shapeless. She looked at herself in the mirror. She no longer looked like Mary, the dignified matriarch. She looked like a prisoner, a shadow. Michelle nodded, satisfied. "Much better. Now you look like a civilized lady. And remember, quiet looks prettier." Friday arrived with unusual hustle. Catering vans, florists, boxes of wine. Michelle was organizing a dinner for the wives of the main partners of Jason's firm. It was the night, as she called it. Everything had to be perfect. Mary had been in her room all day, obedient, dressed in her gray sweatpants. She was hungry. No one had brought her food, and she didn't dare go down to the kitchen after the coffee incident. At 6 inches the evening, thirst overcame her. She opened the door of her room and peeked into the hallway. Michelle was there directing some waiters. She was wearing a breathtaking blood-red cocktail dress. Seeing Mary, her face hardened. She walked toward her quickly, intercepting her before she reached the stairs. "Where do you think you're going?" hissed Michelle in a low voice. "To the kitchen, daughter, for a glass of water and some bread." "I'm hungry now." "No, impossible. The guests are already arriving. I don't want them seeing you coming down like that with those clothes coughing. It would ruin the aesthetic of the night. But miss, I'll just drink water and go up." I said no. Michelle pushed her gently but firmly back to the room. "Listen to me. For your own good, you are going to stay in here. Don't come out. My friends are very special, and they wouldn't understand your customs. You're going to lock me in? It's to protect you, so you don't face embarrassment. I'll bring you up some dinner in a while. Michelle closed the door, and then Mary heard the most humiliating sound of her life. The click of the key turning from the outside. She ran to the knob, tried to open it. Locked. She was locked up like a dangerous animal, like an old piece of junk that is hidden when there are visitors. She sat on the bed feeling like the air was running out. The cough came strong, frightening. She covered her mouth with the pillow so they wouldn't hear her downstairs. Hours passed. The smell of roasted steak, rosemary, and hot bread rose through the cracks, torturing her empty stomach. Downstairs laughter was heard, soft jazz music, the clinking of crystal glasses. Life was happening down there, while she withered in the dark. At 10 at night, the door opened. Michelle entered with a disposable plate in her hand. "Here," she said quickly, with a face of disgust. Mary took the plate. It was leftovers. Pieces of fat from the meat that the guests had left, a bit of cold and dry mashed potatoes, and a hard biscuit, not even a glass of water. "Thank you," murmured Mary, "because dignity isn't lost even with hunger. Eat it quickly, and don't make crumbs. Miss, I need to go to the bathroom. The one here doesn't have water. I flush, and it doesn't go down." "Oh, yes, they cut the water on this floor for maintenance," lied Michelle without blinking. "Well, hold it or use a bucket if it's so urgent, but you can't go out. If you go out and my friends see you, I swear by the most sacred thing that tomorrow I tell Jason that you are senile, that you urinate in the living room, and that we have to send you to a nursing home." Mary froze. The nursing home. The terror of dying alone among strangers. No, miss. I'll hold it." Michelle left and locked the door again. Mary stayed in the dark, eating the cold leftovers with trembling hands, swallowing her tears along with the greasy meat. In that darkness, Mary didn't pray for vengeance. She didn't pray for Michelle to be punished. She touched the wooden rosary in her pocket, the only thing that felt like home, and whispered to the shadows, "Lord, give me the strength to endure this for just one more day. If I speak up, Jason will suffer. If I leave, Jason will worry. Let me be the vessel for this pain so my son can keep his smile." It was the silent, agonizing prayer of a mother who would rather be crushed into the dust than become a burden to the child she raised. She swallowed her dignity with that cold meat, convinced that her silence was her final act of love. It is heartbreaking to witness a mother's love weaponized against her in such a cruel way. But as we all know, secrets in a house like this don't stay buried forever, and a single phone call is about to change everything. Suddenly, her cell phone vibrated under the pillow. It was Jason. Mary wiped her face, tried to clear her throat, and answered. "Hello, Mom." Jason's voice sounded happy with background music. "How are you? Are they treating you well? Michelle told me they brought you up a banquet." Mary looked at the plate of leftovers, looked at the locked door, felt the pain in her bladder. "Yes, son," she said with a broken voice. "I had a very delicious dinner. Michelle takes good care of me." "That's good, Ma. Your voice sounds weird. Are you crying?" It's the soap opera, son. The ending is very sad." "Ah, well, you scared me. Rest, old lady. I love you. I'll arrive tomorrow without fail." Jason was about to hang up. But in that second, before the line cut, Mary couldn't contain a sob, a moan of physical and emotional pain. At that moment, Michelle's shrill voice echoed from the hallway, loud enough to be picked up by the phone. "Alice, bring more wine and check that the old woman's door is still locked. I don't want her getting out." The call cut off abruptly. In Dallas, Jason stood frozen, the phone glued to his ear. "Check that the old woman's door is locked." The words replayed in his mind, sparking a cold, terrible doubt. A cold and terrible doubt. It had just been born, and that doubt would be the beginning of the end for Michelle. The highway from the airport toward Scottsdale stretched like an endless gray ribbon under the rain. Jason drove his SUV with white knuckles from gripping the steering wheel so hard. Michelle's message shone on the dashboard screen, a bluish light that seemed to mock him. "Babe, don't rush back. There was a problem with the guest bathroom plumbing, and the plumbers are making a mess. There is dust everywhere. Better stay one more night there or arrive tomorrow late. Love you." Jason read the message for the 10th time. Plumbers. Michelle hated strangers in the house. If there really was a broken pipe, She would be calling him screaming hysterically, demanding he sue the construction company. But that message was calculated, cold. It was a lie wrapped in gift paper, and added to that scream he heard in the previous call that the old woman's door is still locked. The doubt had turned into a poisonous certainty. "You're not going to play me, Michelle," growled Jason, stepping on the gas pedal to the floor. The V8 engine roared, devouring miles. He arrived in Paradise Valley at 4 inches the afternoon. He didn't enter through the main door. He parked the SUV 3 streets back, in front of an empty park, and walked under the drizzle with his hoodie cap on. He felt like a thief in his own neighborhood. He jumped the back fence of the garden, scraping his hands, and landed on the wet grass. The house was silent, the living room curtains shut tight. He took out his master key and opened the service door of the kitchen with surgical care. The air inside was stale, hot. It smelled of confinement and that cloying perfume of Michelle. "Move it. You look like a turtle." Michelle's scream came from upstairs. It rumbled in the empty walls. Jason pressed himself against the wall with his heart hammering against his ribs. He wanted to run up, wanted to scream, but his instinct told him, "No. If you go up now, she will deny it. She'll say it's a game. That mom is crazy. You need to see. You need to know." He took off his wet shoes and went up the service spiral staircase, the one the employees used and that Michelle never stepped on because it gave her vertigo. He reached the 3rd floor, straight to his private office. There he had his secret, the panic room, a blind security room with monitors connected to all the cameras in the house, including the hidden ones he had installed 6 months ago after a wave of robberies in the neighborhood. Michelle knew about the garden cameras, but she didn't know that Jason's eyes were also in the hallways, in the living room, and in the kitchen. Jason entered the security room, but his hands were trembling so violently he could barely type the password. When the screens finally flickered to life, filling the dark room with a cold blue light, Jason wasn't looking for evidence of a crime. He was looking for his mother. He found her on camera 4. What he saw didn't just make him nauseous. It shattered his soul into 1,000 pieces. There, on the cold marble floor that he had paid for with his vanity, was the woman who had once carried him on her back for miles. She was on her knees, not in prayer, but in submission. He watched Michelle standing over her like a tyrant. But in his mind, Jason didn't see Michelle's cruelty, he saw his own absence. Every pixel on that screen was an accusation. "I did this," a voice screamed inside his head. "I bought this house. I brought her here. I left her alone." Tears streamed down his face, not of anger yet, but of a heartbreaking guilt that burned hotter than fire. He didn't just watch a video. He watched the destruction of his own humanity. There was an orange juice stain on the floor. Mary, trembling, was passing an old rag. "I'm coming, miss. I'm coming." "My knees hurt," moaned Mary. "I don't give a damn if they hurt." Michelle gave a soft but humiliating kick to the rag Mary was holding. "You spilled it because you're clumsy, because of your useless old hands. Now leave it shiny." Jason covered his mouth with his hand to stifle a sob. Seeing the woman who had broken her back washing clothes in the river to pay for his degree, now kneeling, cleaning the floor of his fiancée. It was like taking a bullet to the chest. And hurry up, because if you don't finish in 5 minutes, there's no dinner. Although thinking about it, better no dinner. You're already too fat from so much dough you swallow. Michelle turned around and entered her bedroom, slamming the door. Mary stayed there in the hallway trying to get up. She grabbed the doorknob, but her legs failed. She fell sitting down, sighing with deep pain. "Oh, Lord, take me now," whispered Mary to the void. Jason hit the desk with his closed fist. Tears ran down his face. "No, Mom, you're not going," he whispered to the screen, "but I swear on my life that she is going to pay for every tear." Jason decided not to go down yet. He needed to record everything. He needed to build a file so brutal that when he confronted Michelle, no lawyer or lie could save her. It takes unimaginable restraint to watch a loved one suffer and not intervene immediately. But Jason knows he only gets one shot at this. He is gathering the ammunition for a total destruction of Michelle's lies, and the payback is going to be devastating. He stayed in the security room, becoming the silent witness of hell. Night fell over the house, but for Jason there was no rest. He dozed a couple of hours on the office sofa, with one eye open fixed on the monitors. At dawn, the sound of the audio woke him up. It was 6 inches the morning. Kitchen camera. Michelle entered, dragging Mary by the arm. The old woman was wearing the same dirty gray sweatpants from the day before. She looked pale, with sunken eyes shiny from fever. "Get to work," said Michelle, pushing her toward the sink. "Alice didn't come today. I gave her the day off so you learn what it is to maintain a decent house. Miss, I feel bad. I have a high fever," stammered Mary, holding onto the granite edge so as not to fall. "Oh, please, you always have something." Michelle opened the medicine cabinet. Jason thought she would give her something for the fever, but Michelle took out an empty vitamin bottle and filled it with tap water. "Take this. It's the only thing there is. And now, wash those dishes. I want you to scrub all the copper pots until I can see myself in them. But the water is very cold. My bones hurt." "Well, scrub faster, so you warm up." Michelle sat at the kitchen bar with her coffee in hand, enjoying the show. "And don't you even think about breaking a nail, because I'll charge you for the manicure," Jason observed from above. He saw his mother's deformed hands go into the freezing water, scrubbing with the metal sponge. He saw how she trembled. Every cough of Mary was a stab for him. Suddenly, Mary had a violent coughing fit, dropped the pot, and doubled over the sink. "Cough, cough, cough. Cover your mouth," shrieked Michelle, jumping off the stool. "How gross. You're going to fill my pots with town germs." Michelle grabbed a dirty kitchen rag and threw it at Mary's face. "Put that on your mouth. You look like a sick animal." Mary put the humiliating rag over her mouth with eyes full of tears and kept scrubbing. The torture continued for hours. At noon, Michelle decided that Mary needed fresh air. "Get out to the garden. I need to mop here and you're in the way," said Michelle, opening the back door. It was cold. The sky was gray, and a freezing wind blew. Mary went out hugging herself, looking for a non-existent ray of sunshine. Michelle closed the glass door and engaged the lock. Jason saw on the garden camera how his mother approached the glass, touching it with the palm of her hand. "Miss," Mary's lips could be read. "Open for me. It's cold." Michelle, from inside, poured herself a glass of wine and turned her back, turning up the volume of the music, ignoring her completely. Mary sat on a stone step, curled into a ball. It started to rain. A fine and icy rain. Jason couldn't take it anymore. He got up from the chair to go down and break Michelle's face. But at that moment he saw Mary get up, walk toward a small roof where gardening tools were kept, and take refuge there. She sat on a sack of dirt, took out a plastic rosary from her pocket, and began to pray. Jason stopped. He remembered his mother's phrase, "Dignity is carried in the soul, son." If he went down now, he would save his mother from the cold. Yes, but Michelle would get away with it. Michelle would cry. She would say it was an accident, that the door closed by itself. Jason needed the final blow. He needed Michelle to show herself to the world as the monster she was. "Hold on a little more, Mom. Just a little more," cried Jason, hitting his forehead against the monitor. "I promise you this ends tomorrow." Sunday dawned with a deceptive sun. Michelle was electric since early on. She had organized a charity brunch with the wives of the most important partners of Jason's firm. Rich, influential, and poisonous women. Jason saw on the monitors how Michelle entered Mary's room at 8 inches the morning. She woke her up by throwing the bedding on the floor. "Up. Today you're going to be useful for something," ordered Michelle. She threw her an old uniform of Alice's, a black dress with a white apron that was 2 sizes too small. "Mary, put this on. Today you help serve. But miss, I don't know how to serve fine tables." My hands shake. "I don't care. Alice didn't come, and I'm not going to pay for extra waiters having a mouth to feed for free here. You are going to pass the trays of canapes, and be careful about talking. If someone asks you something, you just smile and say, 'Yes, ma'am.' I don't want you opening your mouth to tell your farm stories." At 11, the guests arrived. 5 women dressed in designer clothes with jewelry that was worth more than Mary's whole town. They sat in the main living room, laughing and drinking mimosas. Michelle was the perfect hostess. She laughed, charmed, showed off her house. "Oh, girls, it's so difficult to find good help nowadays," said Michelle, sighing theatrically. "My mother-in-law, well, the poor woman came from the country, and well, you know, I had to take her in for charity, but she is so rustic." In that moment, Michelle rang a silver bell. "Bring the coffee," she shouted toward the kitchen. Mary appeared. She walked slowly with the tight uniform that made her look ridiculous. She carried a heavy silver tray with the porcelain coffee set. Her hands trembled visibly from the weight and fear. Jason, from the security room, felt like he was running out of air. Seeing his mother turned into the mockery of those women was unbearable. Mary reached the center of the room. "Little coffee, ladies," she said with a threat of a voice. "Oh, Mish, is this the mother-in-law?" asked a woman with red hair, looking at her as if she were a rare specimen. "I thought she was the new maid." "It's almost the same, dear," laughed Michelle cruelly. "Let's see. Serve here." Mary tried to serve the cup of the redhead woman, but the trembling of her hands betrayed her. The stream of hot coffee fell outside the cup, splashing a few drops on the guest's Gucci shoe. "Ouch!" shouted the woman, pulling back her foot. "You burned me, stupid." The silence in the room was total. Michelle jumped up, her face transformed into a mask of fury. "Useless!" screamed Michelle. She slapped the tray Mary was holding. The tray fell to the floor with a terrible crash. Broken cups, spilled coffee, sugar everywhere. Mary stood paralyzed with her hands in the air, petrified by terror. "Look what you did!" Michelle addressed her friends, looking for complicity. "It's just that town people are useless. They have no education. They have no motor skills. They are like animals." She just called the woman who raised her fiancé an Animal Crossing, a line from which there is no return. Michelle feels powerful in this moment, but she has no idea that Jason has just issued the order to lock the doors, and her audience is about to witness her total destruction. "Michelle, calm down. It was an accident," tried to say one of the guests. "Uncomfortable." "No, it's not an accident. She does it to annoy me." Michelle grabbed Mary by the arm, digging in her nails. "Apologize to Jessica, on your knees if necessary. Apologize for ruining her shoes." Mary, crying, tried to bend down. "Sorry, ma'am. Forgive me. I'm very clumsy." "No, no. Get up, please," said the assaulted guest, horrified by the scene. "Mitch, leave her alone. It's not a big deal." Michelle released Mary with a shove. "Get out to the kitchen, and don't come out until I tell you. I'm ashamed for them to see you." Mary ran toward the kitchen, sobbing, dragging her feet. Michelle's friends stayed in silence, exchanging glances. The atmosphere had broken. Jason, upstairs, was crying, but they were no longer tears of sadness. They were tears of a cold fury, calculated. He already had the video, had the audio, had the proof of public cruelty. "It's over, Michelle," said Jason, taking his phone to send a message to his head of security. "Lock the doors. Let no one leave." The meeting ended tensely. The friends left quickly, inventing excuses. Michelle was furious. She had looked bad, but in her twisted mind, the fault was Mary's. She closed the front door and turned toward the kitchen with bloodshot eyes. "Now that old woman is going to hear me," she screamed to the air. Jason saw on the monitor how Michelle entered the kitchen like a hurricane. Mary was picking up the pieces of the broken cup on the floor on her knees. "You ruined my brunch," bellowed Michelle. "Miss," it slipped. Mary looked up, terrified. "Shut up. I'm sick of your excuses, sick of your cough, sick of your smell of poverty." Michelle walked toward her. Mary tried to back away but was cornered between the island and the refrigerator. "I told Jason I didn't want you here." Michelle kicked the porcelain pieces toward Mary, but he insisted. "Well, it's over. Tomorrow I'm kicking you out to a public nursing home. You're going to rot alone there." Mary, facing the threat of the nursing home, tried to get up to beg. "No, miss, please, not to the nursing home. Better send me to the town." She grabbed Michelle's arm to implore. That was her mistake. Michelle felt the contact of the old hand and reacted with pure violence. "Don't touch me," she screamed. Michelle pushed Mary with all her strength. It wasn't a push to move her away, it was a push to hurt. Mary, fragile and unbalanced, flew backward. Time seemed to stop for Jason in front of the screen. He saw his mother fly those eternal meters. Mary's body hit dry against the hard marble floor. Crack. The sound of the bone breaking was captured by the ambient microphone. It was a dry sound, like a branch snapping. Mary let out a heartbreaking scream, a howl of pure pain that froze the blood. "Oh!" Mary grabbed her hip, twisting on the floor. Michelle stood there, breathing agitatedly. She looked at the old woman writhing. For a second she seemed scared, but then her face hardened again. The evil returned to her eyes. She approached Mary, who was crying from pain. "That's what happens for being useless," said Michelle, cold as ice. "And if you tell Jason that I pushed you, I swear I'll kill your chickens, burn your house in the town, and make Jason hate you forever. I'm going to tell him you slipped because you were drunk. Did you hear me?" Mary only moaned, unable to speak from the pain in her hip. Michelle stepped over her, literally jumping over the fallen old woman's legs, and went to the refrigerator. She took out a bottle of water, drank a long gulp, and left the kitchen, turning off the light. "Stay there and see if you learn not to be a nuisance." The kitchen remained in gloom. Only Mary's moans were heard on the floor. "Son, my little son, help me," whispered Mary, calling the one she thought was far away. But Jason wasn't far away. Jason was on the 3rd floor watching the black screen with rage. He got up from the chair with a terrifying calm, wiped his tears, adjusted his clothes, opened his desk drawer, and took out a USB drive. He downloaded the videos of the last 24 hours, put the drive in his pocket, walked toward the panic room door. He opened it, went down the stairs, not the service ones. This time he went down the main staircase, making his steps sound. Loud, heavy, like the sound of the final judgment approaching. He reached the 1st floor. Michelle was in the living room, checking her Instagram, trying to calm down. Hearing the steps, she jumped off the sofa. She saw Jason coming down. His face was pale, his eyes red, his expression indecipherable. Michelle smiled nervously, putting away her cell phone. "Babe," she exclaimed, feigning surprise. "You arrived early. What a miracle!" "I didn't hear the truck." Jason didn't answer. He kept walking toward her step by step. "Jason, what's wrong? You look weird." Michelle backed up a step, feeling a dangerous vibration in the air. Jason stopped a meter from her. He looked at her. He really looked at her for the first time in years. He saw the monster behind the perfect makeup. "Where is my mother?" asked Jason. His voice was calm, too calm. Michelle swallowed saliva. Her mind worked at 1,000 miles per hour. "Oh, babe, your mom. It's just that." Michelle put on a victim face. "We had an accident. She got stubborn. She wanted to drink wine and slipped in the kitchen. I think she hit herself. I told her to be careful, but you know how she is." "She slipped," repeated Jason. "Yes, she fell by herself. I tried to help her, but—" Jason raised his hand. "Michelle, she fell. Let's go see her," he said. He walked toward the kitchen. Michelle followed him, trembling, trying to maintain her lie. Jason entered and turned on the light. Mary was on the floor, pale as paper, passed out from pain. Jason ran to her and knelt down. "Mom, Mom!" He touched her face. It was freezing. Mary opened her eyes with difficulty. She saw her son. "Jason," she whispered. "I fell. My son, it was me. I'm clumsy. Forgive me." She said it, looking at Michelle with terror, protecting him until the end. Jason looked up and looked at Michelle, and in that look, Michelle saw her own end. "No, Mom," said Jason, caressing Mary's white hair. "You didn't fall." He stood up slowly, facing Michelle. He took out the remote control of the smart television that was on the kitchen wall, a screen they used to watch recipes. "Jason, what are you doing? We have to call an ambulance," said Michelle, backing toward the door. "Nobody leaves here," said Jason. He pressed a button. The kitchen screen turned on, connected directly to the panic room server. The video appeared. Michelle was seen screaming. The push was seen. The crack was heard. The threat was heard. "I'm going to tell him you slipped." Michelle turned white as a ghost. She put her hands to her mouth. "Jason, that is edited. I didn't. Shut up." Jason's scream made the glass of the house vibrate. It was an animal roar. Primitive. Not one more word. Jason advanced toward her, cornering her. "You touched my mother. You humiliated her. You broke her." Michelle started to cry now from real fear. "Forgive me. I was stressed. I didn't mean to." "Save your tears," said Jason with disgust. "Because you're going to need them. This," he pointed to his mother on the floor. "This is just the beginning of your nightmare." At that moment the doorbell rang. It was the paramedics Jason had called from the security room minutes before. Jason went to open it. 2 men with a stretcher entered. "Help her," ordered Jason, careful with her hip. While they lifted Mary onto the stretcher, Jason turned toward Michelle, who was trembling in a corner. "You stay here. he told her, and pray. Pray that my mother recovers, because if something happens to her, I swear I will destroy you. Jason left behind the stretcher, leaving Michelle alone in the immense kitchen, under the cold light, with the video of her crime playing on a loop on the screen. The push, the crack, the push, the crack. There is a poetic justice in leaving her trapped with the echo of her own cruelty on repeat, forcing her to watch what she tried so hard to hide. But to understand the true depth of Jason's calculated fury, we need to step back into that dark security room and see the agonizing restraint he had to maintain while watching his mother suffer. The digital clock on the oven marked 8:43 at night. For the outside world, it was just any Sunday night. For Miss Mary, lying on the cold marble floor of the kitchen, it was purgatory. Hours had passed since the push. Her right hip was no longer part of her body. It was a knot of liquid fire, a creature with teeth biting the bone every time she tried to inhale air. She was curled in a fetal position between the granite island and the huge stainless steel refrigerator, a dark corner where the hum of the motor was her only company. Lord, if you are going to take me now. Don't leave me here like an animal, whispered Mary with her lips glued to the floor, feeling the cold of the stone penetrate her cheek. 3 floors up, in the armored security room, Jason paced from one side to the other, leaving an imaginary furrow in the carpet. His eyes were dry, red, bloodshot. He was no longer crying. The crying had dried up an hour ago, replaced by a cold and calculating volcanic fury. On the high-definition screen, he saw his mother tremble. He saw how her wrinkled hands, those holy hands that had fed him, scratched the grout of the tiles trying to find support to get up, and how she fell again, defeated by gravity and the pain of the fracture. Damn it. Jason hit the padded wall with his fist, feeling the impact vibrate in his shoulder. I should go down and kill her with my own hands. But he couldn't. His lawyer had been clear in the text message. If you go down now, she will say it was an accident. She will say the old lady slipped, and you are a hysterical son. We need systematic cruelty. We need a video that no judge can ignore. We need her to believe she won so she shows her true face. Hold on, Jason, for your mother. Hold on. Suddenly, on the monitor, the kitchen door opened abruptly. Michelle entered. The image was an insult. She was no longer wearing street clothes. She was wearing a pearl-colored silk robe untied, revealing expensive lingerie. In one hand, she held a glass of Grand Reserve red wine. In the other, her cell phone spoke amidst laughter. Oh, yes, Mom. A disaster. Total. The useless old woman ruined my afternoon. No, I haven't kicked her out yet. Jason would get hysterical if I put her on the street, but I have the urge to open the door and let the dogs eat her. Michelle let out a dry laugh, took a long drink of wine, and hung up the call. Her eyes, made up but cold, lowered toward the dark corner. Is she still there? She asked with a mixture of boredom and disgust, approaching and touching Mary's healthy leg with the tip of her high-heel slipper. What are you waiting for? For the Holy Spirit to come down and lift you? Mary opened her eyes. They were glassy from pain. Miss, please, it hurts a lot. I think the bone is broken. I can't move. Oh, please. Michelle rolled her eyes. Stop the cheap soap opera theater. Country people endure childbirth in the bush without anesthesia. Don't come to me with a slip in my kitchen killing you. You just want attention. You want Jason to arrive and scold me, right? Well, suck it up. Jason isn't coming. Michelle walked toward the refrigerator, passing over Mary's legs as if they were an annoying obstacle on the sidewalk. She opened the double door. The fridge light illuminated the kitchen, revealing shelves full of gourmet food, imported cheeses, exotic fruits. Mary felt a spasm in her stomach. She had gone 24 hours without eating. The smell of fresh food made her dizzy. I'm hungry, said Michelle to herself. And I suppose you are too, since your specialty is provoking pity. Michelle rummaged in the back, took out a transparent Tupperware, old, stained with red sauce. She opened it and smelled the content with a grimace of displeasure. Ugh, this is the beef stew from 3 days ago. The grease has already turned hard and orange. I was going to throw it in the trash or give it to the neighbor's dog, but she looked at Mary, and a perverse smile was drawn on her lips. I think it would make the dog sick. You are going to love it. Michelle walked toward where Mary was. She didn't look for a plate, didn't look for a spoon, didn't seek to heed it. She stood right over the old woman's head, casting a long shadow. "Open your mouth," she ordered. Mary looked at her terrified, trying to back away, crawling with her elbows. "What? What are you going to do, miss? Open your mouth or I'll throw it in your eyes," screamed Michelle, losing patience. She didn't wait for an answer. Michelle turned the Tupperware over. The block of cold, greasy, gelatinous, and heavy food fell with a wet and disgusting sound. Splat. It fell mere inches from Mary's nose. The cold sauce splashed her cheek, her neck, and her shawl, staining her with orange grease and rancid smell. Mary closed her eyes and let out a moan that wasn't of physical pain, but of a broken soul. "Ups," said Michelle with a feigned, childish voice. It slipped. "Oh, what clumsy hands I have. Well, there's your dinner. Bon appétit." Mary tried to wipe her face with her shoulder, trembling. "I'm not an animal, miss. I'm not going to eat off the floor like a dog. I have dignity, dignity." Michelle let out a strident laugh. "Look at yourself, mother-in-law. You are lying on the floor, dirty, smelling of sweat and old age. No one wants you here. You are less than an animal in my house. A dog at least wags its tail for me. You just get in the way and consume air, and animals eat what is left over." Michelle squatted down, lowering her perfect face to floor level. She put a finger with a French manicure into the stew thrown on the marble, picked up a bit of cold sauce with congealed grease, and with a violent movement smeared it on Mary's lips, squeezing her cheeks to force her to open her mouth. "Swallow!" she hissed with hate. "Taste it, so you know what the charity of this house tastes like." Mary spit, coughing, crying fat tears that mixed with the grease on her face. "God is going to punish you, miss," moaned Mary. "God sees everything. You won't get away clean. God doesn't live in Paradise Valley. Stupid old woman. Here I rule, and if you want to survive this night, you better lick that floor." Michelle got up, wiped her dirty finger on Mary's shawl as if it were a kitchen rag, and walked toward the exit. Before turning off the light, she stopped with her hand on the switch. "If tomorrow morning that stain is still there, I swear I'll make you clean it with your tongue in front of the visitors. And don't even think about screaming, because I'm turning up the volume of the music and no one will hear you die." Click. The light went out. Mary was left plunged in total darkness, surrounded by the rancid smell of rotten meat, with the grease drying on her face like a mask of shame and the pain devouring her leg. Upstairs, Jason was on his knees in front of the screen, with hands joined, trembling. "Eat it, Michelle. Eat it all," he whispered with a voice broken by hate, "because I swear you are going to choke on your own evil. I'm going to make you swallow every tear of my mother." The dawn brought with it a silent and lethal enemy, infection. 4 hours had passed since the food incident. Mary had managed, after an agony of millimeter crawling that cost her muffled screams and broken nails, to reach the small utility room next to the kitchen. She didn't have the strength to get up on the cot. She stayed lying on an old dusty rug, covered with some dirty cleaning rags she found in a wicker basket. Her body was an oven. The fever rose and fell in violent waves, making her shiver until her teeth chattered with a dry noise. The cold sweat soaked her clothes, and her gray hair stuck to her forehead. "Jason, son, I'm thirsty," she mumbled in the dark. In her feverish mind, Mary was no longer in the cold mansion in the city. She was back in her shack in Arizona 20 years ago. She saw shadows in the corners. "Frank," she called her dead husband. "Frank, bring me water from the well, old man. The water here tastes like poison. Frank, tell them not to hit me." Jason. Listening through the hidden high-sensitivity microphones from the panic room, Jason felt he was going crazy. He had headphones on, and the volume to the max. Hearing his mother ask for water in his own house, a mansion with 10 bathrooms and refrigerators full of imported bottles. It was the greatest psychological torture of his life. He took a bottle of water from his desk and fainted to go down. He jumped up from the chair. "Screw the plan," he shouted. "She's going to die of dehydration. I have to go down." But at that moment, on screen number 4, he saw movement. The utility room door opened violently, hitting the wall. Michelle entered. She was wearing a black silk sleep mask, lifted on her forehead, and messed up hair. She looked furious for having been woken up. "Shut up," she screamed, kicking the door frame. "You sound like a soul in pain." "Stop moaning. Your wails can be heard up to my master bedroom and I can't sleep." Mary opened her glassy eyes. The hallway light blinded her momentarily. She didn't recognize Michelle immediately. "Is that you, Mom?" asked Mary, lost in the fog of fever. "Mom, my body hurts." "Take me home. It's me, crazy old woman. Michelle, the owner of this house, and I want silence." Mary, in a moment of painful lucidity, stretched a trembling hand toward the figure in the door. "Miss, water. For the charity of God. I'm burning inside. I'm very thirsty." Michelle snorted, crossing her arms. She looked at the old woman with absolute annoyance, like someone looking at an annoying leak. But then an idea crossed her dark eyes, a perverse and sadistic idea. "You want water?" she asked with a falsely sweet voice, tilting her head. "Sure. Poor thing. I'll bring you some right now." Michelle entered the small service bathroom. The faucet was heard opening to the max. She returned with a large red plastic cup, full to the brim with ice water. Mary tried to sit up, supporting herself on an elbow that trembled from the effort, crying with anticipated gratitude. "Thank you. Thank you, daughter. God bless you. You are good." Michelle approached, leaned over her, brought the cup close to Mary's dry, cracked, white lips. Mary opened her mouth desperate, closing her eyes to receive relief. But Michelle didn't give her a drink. With a quick and cruel flick of the wrist, Michelle threw the contents of the cup directly onto Mary's face, neck, and chest. Splash. The water was freezing. Mary gasped, drowning from the surprise, coughing violently while the cold water soaked her blouse, her feverish skin, and the rug where she lay. The thermal shock on her sick body was brutal, making her convulse with cold. "Ups," said Michelle without blinking, looking at her from above. "It slipped. Oh, how clumsy I am today." "Well, you cooled off. Didn't you want to get rid of the heat?" "Well, there you go," Mary cried, shivering uncontrollably now, hugging herself to conserve the little heat she had left. "Why? Why are you so mean?" she asked between her teeth. "I didn't do anything to you. I loved you like a daughter." Michelle crouched down and whispered in her ear very close, as if telling her an intimate secret. "Because you disgust me. Because you smell like old, like poverty, like farm. Because Jason loves you more than me and I won't allow that. You are extra in this equation. You are a hindrance in my perfect life. If you die of pneumonia tonight, you do me the greatest favor of my life. So do me the favor. Die." Michelle stood up, and upon turning around accidentally stepped on Mary's hand, which was extended on the floor. She crushed the fingers with the heel of her hard slipper. Mary screamed in pain. "Oh, sorry, I didn't see you," Michelle shrugged. "It's just that you are so insignificant that you get confused with the trash on the floor." Michelle walked toward the door. "Dry yourself with your filthy shawl, and if I hear a single noise again, a single moan, I swear I'll come down, drag you by the hair, and lock you in the pump basement with the rats. And there no one will hear you scream when they bite you." The door closed with a slam. The deadbolt slid from the outside. Clack! Mary was left wet, frozen, with extremely high fever and unbearable pain, shrunk in fetal position, praying to die before dawn. Upstairs, Jason was trembling more than his mother, but not from cold. He trembled from a volcanic anger that threatened to make him explode. He took his personal cell phone. His fingers flew over the screen, dialing a private number. "Dr. Smith, it's Jason. Change of plans. I want the ambulance here at 11 inches the morning sharp. Not before, not after. Bring resuscitation and trauma equipment and notify Officer Johnson. I want patrol cars at the door. I want them to take her out in handcuffs in front of the whole neighborhood." "Yes." At 11? Not a minute more. Jason opened his desk drawer, took out a pistol he kept for security, took the safety off, and put it back. He didn't plan to shoot, didn't want to stain his hands with the blood of that woman, but he needed to feel the weight of the cold metal. He needed to remember that he had the power. "You are going to wish you had died tonight, Michelle. I swear it by my mother's life. Tomorrow you will know true hell. The cruelty we've just witnessed is hard to stomach, but it sets the stage for a necessary and powerful reckoning. Jason's plan is now in motion. And if you think you know how this dinner party will end, just wait until you see who walks down those stairs." Sunday dawned with a leaden sky over Phoenix, gray and heavy like the atmosphere inside the mansion. Michelle was a whirlwind of hysteria. She had fired the catering service at 9 inches the morning in a fit of rage because one of the waiters looked at her with lack of respect upon seeing her scream at the gardener. Now, an hour before the event, she was alone. "Damn it," screamed Michelle in the living room, breaking a cut crystal vase against the wall. "I have to do everything in this house. No one is good for anything." Her gaze, injected with stress and madness, directed to the ceiling toward the utility room. A twisted and sinister smile appeared on her lips, painted blood red. "No, I don't have a free servant, and today she is going to earn every cent she has eaten." She went up the stairs, tapping her heels with fury. She entered the utility room without knocking, opening the door with a kick. The smell of humidity, sickness, and urine, because Mary hadn't been able to get up to go to the bathroom, hit her, but she didn't care. Mary was semi-unconscious on the floor, still wet. The fever had her in a state of stupor. She hadn't moved all night. "Up!" screamed Michelle, clapping loudly and aggressively close to the old woman's ear. "Nap time is over. Sleeping Beauty. Today we work." Mary opened her swollen and red eyes. It cost her to focus. "Miss, I can't move. I don't feel my legs. Let me die in peace, please. You aren't going to die until I say so." Michelle grabbed her by the arms with force and pulled her upward with unnecessary violence. The abrupt movement shook Mary's fractured hip like an internal earthquake. Mary's scream was heartbreaking, an animal howl of pure agony that made the windows of the room vibrate. "Shut up," Michelle slapped her with an open hand. The sound of skin hitting skin was dry and brutal. "If you scream again, I'll break your other leg. Get up right now." With methodical cruelty, Michelle dragged Mary until forcing her to sit. She ripped off the wet and dirty blouse without any delicacy, leaving the old woman half naked, shivering with cold and covering her chest with shame. "Here." Michelle opened a trash bag and took out a black uniform, old and dingy, that had belonged to a teenage employee years ago. It was size small. "Put this on, and tighten the girdle. I don't want your flabby belly showing." "It doesn't fit, miss. It's too small. It squeezes my chest. It hurts." "Well, hold your breath." Michelle began to stuff the dress on by force, pulling the fabric, pinching Mary's skin, forcing the arthritic arms to enter the narrow sleeves as if she were stuffing meat. It was a medieval torture scene. Mary cried in silence, fat tears rolling down her cheeks while Michelle dressed her and insulted her. "Look at yourself." Michelle forced her to look at the broken mirror hanging on the wall. "You have raccoon circles under your eyes. Your face looks like a corpse. Put on this lipstick." She threw a cheap red lipstick at her that fell to the floor. "Pick it up and paint yourself and cover that bruise on your arm with powder. I don't want my friends to think I beat you, although you deserve it for being useless." Mary, with hands that looked like dry leaves in the wind, tried to pick up the lipstick. She couldn't. Michelle snorted, picked up the lipstick, and applied it herself roughly, going outside the lip line, leaving the old woman with her mouth painted like a grotesque clown. "Ready? Now go down. You have 5 minutes. If you aren't downstairs with the silver tray when the doorbell rings, I swear by your son's life that I go to your room, take out the cardboard box where you have your wedding photo, and I burn it. I burn it right here in front of you." Michelle left, slamming the door. Mary was left alone, leaning against the wall so as not to fall. Every inch of skin hurt, her soul hurt. She felt like she was going to faint. She looked at the ceiling looking for God, but in his place she felt a strange strength born in her belly, an ancient strength. "Jason," she whispered with a hoarse voice, "if you see me, forgive me for being so weak, but I'm going down for you so they don't say your mother gave up, so they don't burn your memory." With a superhuman effort, biting her lips until they bled so as not to scream from pain, Miss Mary took a step, and then another, dragging the broken leg, sweating cold. Every step was a victory. Every step was a farewell to life. In the panic room, Jason was standing, rigid as a statue. He no longer looked at the monitors. He was connecting his personal laptop to the central smart home server. His fingers typed with fury, preparing the final stage. "You aren't weak, Mom. You are the strongest woman in the world, and today everyone is going to see it." He loaded the compiled video file, renamed the HDMI input of the main living room as Divine Justice. He wiped his tears with his sleeve, smoothed his messy hair, took the universal remote control in his right hand. "Let the show begin, Michelle. Your time has come." The doorbell of the mansion rang at 11 sharp, punctual like death. Michelle ran to open it, transforming her grimace of hate and stress into a radiant and fake smile in a matter of seconds. "Girls, welcome," she screamed, opening her arms to hug Jessica, the first guest, a tall and bleached woman carrying a designer bag that cost more than Mary's entire life. 5 women entered, the elite squad, shrill laughter, clouds of expensive perfume, scanner glances judging the dust in the corners and the brand of the furniture. "Oh, Mitch, the traffic was stressful. I almost killed myself. I need a mimosa urgently, or I'll faint," said Jessica, entering, as if she owned the place. Come into the living room." "Everything is ready," said Michelle, guiding them. "Make yourselves comfortable. My house is your house." They sat on the Italian white leather sofas in the main living room, under the crystal chandelier. The room was impressive, with its double height and the giant 85-inch screen off on the main wall, black and shiny like a monolith. "Hey, Mitch, and the service?" asked one of the friends, looking around with suspicion. "It's all very deserted. Where is Alice?" "Oh dear, it's a Greek tragedy. I had to fire everyone this morning. I discovered they were stealing silver cutlery and bottles of wine. You know how those people are. You give them a hand and they take the foot. They are ungrateful," lied Michelle with spooky naturalness, pouring herself a glass. "How awful. That's why I hire security agencies and check their bags," commented another, nodding. "But don't worry," Michelle smiled maliciously, her eyes shining with anticipation. "I have temporary help, a lady Jason picked up for charity. She is very rustic, a peasant, but she serves to carry trays if you yell at her a little." Michelle took the silver bell from the coffee table and shook it with violence, a sharp and piercing sound. "Ding ding. Service. Hurry up, we don't have all day." All gazes directed to the arch, connecting with the kitchen. There was a tense silence. A painful shuffling of feet was heard. Squeak, drag, squeak, drag. And then Mary appeared. The image was dantesque. The old woman came dragging her dead right leg, pale as wax, sweating buckets from the effort. The red lipstick was smeared, making her look like a tragic clown. The black uniform squeezed her so much it looked like she was going to burst. She carried an immense silver tray loaded with fine crystal glasses, a pitcher of orange juice, and smoked salmon canapes. Her arms, thin as dry branches, trembled so much that the crystal tinkled like a fire alarm. "My God," whispered Jessica, covering her mouth with a hand. "Is that—" "Yes, it's Jason's mother," said Michelle aloud, enjoying the humiliation drinking from her glass. "She insisted on helping. She feels useless if she isn't serving. You know, town customs where women are born to serve." "Let's see, Miss Mary, don't stand there like a statue. Serve Jessica. She is dying of thirst." Mary advanced into the living room, weak from hunger and fever. She trembled under the weight of the heavy silver tray. "Faster!" Michelle hissed, pinching Mary's bruised arm. Mary took a step, but her leg, weak from the previous day's beatings, gave way. She stumbled, and the crystal glasses chimed dangerously. "You clumsy idiot!" Michelle screamed. In a fit of blind rage, right in front of her guests, Michelle shoved Mary with all her strength. Mary flew backward. Her frail body hit the hard marble floor with a sickening crack. This time, the sound wasn't just glass breaking, it was bone. Mary let out a heartbreaking scream, clutching her hip, unable to move. She lay curled in a fetal position amidst the shattered glass and spilled orange juice. "Oh my God!" cried Jessica, covering her mouth. But Michelle didn't stop. "Look what you did! My rug!" She raised her foot to kick the fallen woman. "Don't you touch her!" The roar came from the staircase. It wasn't a human voice. It was the sound of a predator. Jason was descending the stairs, his eyes burning with a dark, lethal fire. The sound was dry and loud, like a branch snapping. It echoed through the silent room. Mary let out a heartbreaking scream, clutching her hip, unable to move. "Oh my God!" cried Jessica, one of the guests. Michelle didn't help. She looked at the spilled juice on the rug and lost her mind. "Look what you did! My rug! You are useless!" Michelle raised her foot to kick the fallen, screaming old woman. The heavy double doors of the staircase flew open. Jason stood there. He wasn't hiding anymore. He had seen enough. Pulling her head back brutally so she would look at her. "Get up and clean this now." Clean it with your tongue if necessary. I want this floor clean now, Mary cried with hands joined in plea, bleeding from a cut on her hand caused by the glass. Sorry. Kill me now. Better kill me, miss. I can't take it anymore. I have the urge, old woman. In that instant of absolute chaos, a sound cut the air. A mechanical, heavy, metallic sound. Clack, clack. The security door of the third floor, the one that was always closed, opened abruptly. And then steps. Strong, determined steps. Steps of an enraged man. Thump. Thump. Someone was coming down the main staircase with the force of an army. Michelle froze with her fist, still grabbing Mary's hair. Her eyes opened with pure terror. She released the old woman, looked toward the stairs. Everyone looked up. Jason was coming down, not running. He walked with a terrifying slowness, controlled. He was wearing wrinkled house clothes. He had a 3-day beard and deep dark circles. But his expression was that of an executioner seconds before dropping the axe. In one hand he held his phone. In the other he squeezed the universal remote control with such force that his knuckles were white. Jason, whispered Michelle, backing up and crashing into the table. Babe, what are you doing here? I thought you were in Dallas. Jason looked at her. His eyes, 2 pits of black fire, were fixed on his mother, thrown amidst the glass and trash. He reached the living room. The silence was absolute, only broken by the hum of the air conditioning and the heartbreaking sobs of the old woman. Michelle's friends moved away, sticking to the walls, terrified by the dark and lethal energy emanating from him. Jason knelt slowly next to his mother. He ignored the juice staining his knees. He ignored the glass crunching under his weight. Mom, he said with a broken voice, soft as a caress. Mary opened a swollen eye. Son, go away. What shame. I dropped everything. She is going to get mad. Forgive me. No one is going to get mad, Mom. Jason hugged her with infinite care, staining himself with orange and salmon, kissing her dirty head. I'm here now. No one is going to touch you ever again. I swear to you. Jason stood up, turned slowly toward Michelle. She was trembling, white as paper, with shaking hands in the air. Jason, listen. I can explain. She fell by herself. She is drunk. She stole wine from the cellar. I was trying to help her get up and... Help her? Jason's voice resonated in the room with an echo, deep and terrifying. You helped her when you kicked her broken leg 10 seconds ago? Did you help her when you made her eat off the floor last night? Did you help her when you threw ice water on her while she had a fever? Did you help her when you wished for her death? Michelle gasped, feeling the floor opening up. The friends opened their eyes wide. How? How do you know? Stammered Michelle. Are you crazy? Your mother lies to you. I saw everything. Michelle, everything. Jason didn't scream. He didn't rage. He stood with a terrifying calmness. The kind that comes after a storm has destroyed everything. He raised the remote control, not like a weapon, but like a gavel delivering a final verdict. You wanted to be the center of attention, Michelle, Jason said, his voice barely a whisper, yet echoing with thunderous authority. You wanted to show my friends the rustic woman I brought home. But today, we aren't going to look at my mother's poverty. We are going to look at your soul. He pressed the button. There were no dramatic titles, no red letters, just the raw, unedited footage of a crime against nature. The giant screen illuminated the room, exposing the darkness hidden behind Michelle's beauty. And the video began to play at full volume. The push in the kitchen, crack, the scream, the food thrown on the floor. Dog, the ice water in the face, die. The kick from a moment ago repeated in slow motion. There is a profound satisfaction in seeing the truth finally come to light in front of everyone. But the story doesn't end with revenge. The most important part of Jason and Mary's journey, the healing, is just beginning. Michelle's friends looked at the screen horrified, covering their mouths, some crying from the impact. Michelle looked at the video, then looked at Jason, and saw in his eyes not her fiancé, but her judge and executioner. She knew, in that eternal second, that her life of luxury, her reputation, and her freedom had just ended forever. The atmosphere in the main living room of the mansion had become unbreathable. The air conditioning buzzed, but everyone sweated cold. Mary remained on the floor, curled up among the broken pieces of crystal glasses and salmon remnants, covering her face with her trembling hands, stained with blood and juice. The 5 friends of Michelle, those society women who minutes before laughed, were now glued to the wall, pale as ghosts, watching the scene with a mixture of morbid curiosity and terror. Jason was standing in the center of the ruined Persian rug. His breathing was heavy, hoarse, like that of a wounded animal that has decided to attack. In his right hand, the universal remote control didn't tremble. It pointed toward the immense black 85-inch screen hanging on the stone wall, as if it were a loaded rifle pointing at Michelle's heart. "Jason, my love, listen to me, please," stammered Michelle, taking a hesitant step toward him. Her voice, usually authoritative, was now a sharp and desperate squeal. "Don't do this. You are upset. Your mother filled your head with old people lies. She fell. I swear on my life. Let's go to my room. Let's talk you and me alone as a couple. Not one more step." Jason's scream was so powerful it made the window panes vibrate. Michelle jumped back from the scare, crashing into a side table and knocking over a Chinese porcelain lamp that shattered with a terrible crash. "We are not going to talk in private, Michelle," said Jason with a dangerously low voice. "Guttural. You wanted a show. You invited your audience to humiliate my mother. You wanted everyone to see how you treated her like an animal. Well then, we are going to give them a show, but the starring role is going to be played by you." Jason pressed the play button with his thumb. The giant screen came to life with a white flash. There were no logos, no start menus. The video began playing immediately, connected directly from the panic room security server. The image was crisp, brutal, in ultra-high definition 4K. The surround sound system of the living room, designed for home cinema, amplified every noise, every breath, every hit. Jason stood over Michelle, who was now trembling against the sofa. He didn't say a word. He simply pointed the remote at the massive 85-inch screen and pressed play. The room was filled with the crisp, 4K audio of Michelle's cruelty. The guests watched in horror as the screen cycled through the footage Jason had compiled. Michelle locking Mary in the rain, Michelle forcing her to eat leftovers off the floor, Michelle throwing ice water on a sick, feverish woman. And finally, the playback of the push that had just happened moments ago. The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by Mary's soft sobbing on the floor. Jason paused the video on a close-up of Michelle's face, twisted in hate from the night before. He looked at his fiancée, his voice deadly calm. "You wanted a show, Michelle? You wanted to show off my rustic mother? Well, now everyone sees exactly who the rustic one is. You are trash wrapped in silk." Jason pressed a button. The screen showed what had happened just 30 seconds ago, captured from the ceiling camera. Michelle shoving Mary. The push, the fall, the sound of the bone breaking, the attempt to kick her while she was down. "You didn't help her," Jason said, his voice cold as death. "You broke her." The screen showed the night of fever. Mary shivering on the utility room floor. Michelle entering with the glass of water. The hope and gratitude in the old woman's eyes, thinking she would be given a drink, and then splash, the ice water soaking the sick woman, making her convulse with cold. The audio captured Michelle's whisper, clear as water. "If you die tonight, you do me the greatest favor of my life. Die." The silence in the room broke definitively. The horror was absolute. One of the guests started crying openly. Jason paused the video right on the close-up of Michelle's face, smiling after throwing the water. That cruel smile remained frozen on the giant 85-inch screen, presiding over the room like an unappealable final judgment. Jason walked slowly toward where his mother was. He knelt, ignoring the sticky juice and the glass cutting the fabric of his pants and the skin of his knees. He lifted her with infinite delicacy, as if she were a sacred relic that had been broken. "Forgive me, son. Forgive me," cried Mary, hiding her face in Jason's chest, staining his shirt with tears, blood, and dirt. "What shame! I ruined your party with my clumsiness." Jason looked up, his eyes, full of tears of contained rage, nailed onto Michelle, who remained on the sofa, breathing agitatedly like a cornered animal. "Did you hear that?" asked Jason to the room with a broken but powerful voice. "She asks me for forgiveness after you broke her, humiliated her, starved her, and almost killed her with pneumonia. She asks me for forgiveness for ruining your stupid brunch." Jason stood up, helping his mother sit on a clean chair, away from the glass. Then he turned toward Michelle, advanced toward her step by step. Michelle shrank into the sofa, terrified by the violence contained in his gaze. "With a mother like mine," said Jason, pointing to the humble and broken woman. "You weren't anyone, Michelle. You don't even reach the sole of her old sandals. You are trash wrapped in silk. You are wrought with expensive perfume, and today everyone knows what you really smell like. Jason, baby, listen to me, please." Michelle tried one last tactic, that of the victim, sobbing falsely, extending arms. "I was stressed, the wedding, the preparations. I took pills for nerves. It wasn't me. I swear I'm going to change. Let's go to couples therapy. I'll buy her a house, I'll buy her whatever she wants. I'll pay for a nurse." Jason let out a dry laugh, humorless, a terrifying sound that froze the blood of everyone present. "Therapy? No, Michelle, you don't need therapy. You need an exorcism or a punishment cell in a maximum security prison, and I swear by my father's memory that I'm going to get you the second one." It is chilling to watch her attempt to manipulate her way out of such undeniable cruelty, proving she has no remorse, only a fear of consequences. But Jason's cold laughter tells us the time for excuses is over, and the sentence he is about to finish will seal her fate forever. The echo of Jason's threat still vibrated in the tension-filled air. Michelle, realizing that fake tears and seduction no longer worked with the man looking at her with pure hate, changed her face instantly to one of defensive fury and arrogance. She stood up with a jump, smoothing her stained dress, trying to recover a dignity that had already evaporated. "You can't threaten me," screamed Michelle, pointing at him with her finger. "I am your fiancé. I am the future owner of this house. I wear this ring that is worth a fortune. If you try anything, I sue you. I take half the company. We lived together for 2 years. I have common law rights and I'm going to leave you on the street." Jason looked at her with deep disgust, as if seeing a cockroach. He brought his left hand to his right hand, grabbed the engagement ring, a 3-carat solitaire diamond, princess cut, that had cost him 3 years of work and savings. He took it off slowly, feeling like he was freeing himself from a chain. "My stocks mean nothing. My money means nothing. All that I did for my mother, not for you," said Jason coldly. He didn't hand the ring to her. He threw it to the floor with absolute contempt, right into the puddle of dirty orange juice, salmon remains, and broken glass where his mother had fallen minutes before. "There is your future, Michelle, in the trash, where you belong. The engagement is over. You are out of my life, my house, my company, and my will." Michelle looked at the ring shining amidst the sticky dirt. Greed shone in her eyes for an uncontrollable second. She made the instinctive gesture to bend down to pick it up. "Don't you even think about touching it," screamed Jason with a voice of thunder. "That ring stays there as a monument to your misery. If you touch it, I break your hand. I have rights," she shrieked, hysterical, with neck veins bulging. "You can't throw me out like this. My clothes, my jewels, my brand-name bags." "I paid for everything," said Jason, implacable, advancing toward her. "Even the underwear you are wearing, I paid for with my card. You leave with what you are wearing and be thankful I don't kick you out onto the street naked." At that moment, blue and red lights flooded the living room through the panoramic windows, bouncing off the white walls. Sirens sounded outside, cutting the morning air. Wee woo, wee woo, approaching until stopping right in front of the door. Michelle ran to the window, pale as a corpse. "Police?" She turned toward Jason, trembling. "You called the police on me?" "An hour ago," confirmed Jason, crossing his arms. "While you mocked my mother, made her up like a clown, and dressed her as a maid. I was sending the videos to Officer Johnson at the prosecutor's office. They have an immediate arrest warrant for aggravated assault, attempted homicide, breach of trust, and abuse of a vulnerable person." The front door opened with a slam. They didn't have to knock. Jason had left the access free. 4 officers entered armed with tactical vests and 2 paramedics with a yellow emergency stretcher. "Here!" shouted Jason, pointing to his mother. "Please, attend to my mother. She has a hip fracture and dehydration." The paramedics ran toward Mary. "Ma'am, calm down. Don't move. We are going to immobilize the hip with care. It's going to hurt a little." "Oh, my son, no patrol cars. What shame with the neighbors," cried Mary, covering her face. They are going to say we are trouble people. You have nothing to be ashamed of, Mom. The shame is hers. You are the victim. The officers went directly to Michelle, surrounding her. Miss Michelle Guzman, or similar. You are under arrest. Put your hands behind your back, now. Don't touch me, savages, shrieked Michelle, flailing and trying to slap an officer. You don't know who I am. My dad is a close friend of the governor. I'm going to get you all fired. You are some starving people just like that old woman. The officer in charge, a robust man who had seen the videos on the way and felt repulsion for her, had no patience. He grabbed her by the wrist, twisted her arm behind her back with painful police technique, and pushed her against the wall, immobilizing her. Shut your mouth. You have the right to remain silent, and I suggest you use it, because every word you say sinks you deeper. Click, click. The sound of the metal handcuffs closing around Michelle's wrists was the final symphony of her fall. The cold metal against her skin was her reality check. You're hurting me. Let go, animal. Jason, tell them to let me go, screamed Michelle while they dragged her toward the door, losing a shoe in the process. I love you, Jason. Please. It was a mistake. Don't let them take me. Jason didn't even turn around. He was back to her, kissing his mother's forehead while they lifted her onto the stretcher. Get her out of here, ordered Jason with a dead voice. And make sure the whole neighborhood sees her, that everyone knows who she is. They dragged her out. Michelle kicked, screamed insults, cursed, and outside the final humiliation awaited her. Her friends, Jessica, Sarah, and the other three who had run out of the house minutes before, hadn't left. They were on the sidewalk, hiding behind their luxury cars, like vultures waiting for carrion. All had their cell phones held high. They were broadcasting live on Instagram and TikTok. Jessica spoke to her iPhone camera, feigning indignation. You guys can't believe what happened. Michelle is a criminal. She almost killed her mother-in-law with beatings. We didn't know anything. We were victims of her lies. Look how they are taking her away in handcuffs. Justice. Michelle saw the cell phones, saw the betrayal of her social circle. Stop recording. Damn bitches, she screamed, trying to launch herself against them, spitting at them. You were my friends. You ate from my table. Hypocrites. Murderer, shouted Sarah from the safety of her car. I hope you rot in jail. No one loves you anymore. The police put Michelle in the back of the patrol car, protecting her head with excessive force. She hit herself against the doorframe. Ouch, brutes. The door closed. Michelle remained trapped behind the security grate, screaming, crying, seeing through the dirty glass how her crystal world shattered in front of the flashes of the cell phones of those who claimed to love her. Jason left the house walking beside his mother's stretcher. They loaded her into the ambulance. He got in with her, holding her cold hand. He looked back one last time through the open doors of the ambulance. He saw his perfect mansion in Paradise Valley. He saw the patrol car with lights spinning, taking his ex-fiancée. He saw the fake friends uploading stories. He felt deep disgust for that life of appearances. Let's go, he told the ambulance driver. Far from here. I never want to come back. The private hospital was a world apart, silent, white, sterile. It smelled clean, of disinfectant and lavender, not rotten and fear like his mansion. Miss Mary had gone into emergency surgery as soon as they arrived. The operation lasted 4 hours. They put 3 titanium pins in her hip and had to hydrate her via IV because her kidneys were failing from lack of water. Jason lived in that hospital room for 10 days and 10 nights. He didn't go home to get clothes. He didn't go to a hotel to sleep. He slept in an uncomfortable vinyl recliner next to his mother's bed. He let his beard grow. He wore the same wrinkled clothes stained with juice from the day of the incident. He ate ham sandwiches from the vending machine and watered-down coffee from the hallway. He didn't care about anything. His only mission in life, his only religion now was watching his mother's chest rise and fall, ensuring she kept breathing. On the 3rd day, the anesthesia and sedatives wore off. Mary woke up completely. The fever was gone thanks to potent antibiotics. Water, she whispered with a raspy voice. Jason jumped from the chair as if he had a spring, almost knocking over the small table. Here it is, Ma. Slowly with a straw. Don't move. He held her head with infinite tenderness, adjusting the pillows. Mary drank eagerly, closing her eyes. Upon finishing, her black eyes, tired but alive, focused on her son. Jason looked terrible, purple circles under eyes, dirty hair, red eyes swollen from crying so much in silence while she slept. But he looked at her with absolute adoration, like someone looking at a saint. "My son, you look real ugly," said Mary with a weak smile, touching his beard. "You smell like a goat. You need a bath." Jason let out a nervous laugh that broke into immediate crying. He crumbled onto the edge of the bed, burying his face in the clean sheets, obsessively careful not to touch the operated leg. "I'm an idiot, Mom. I'm the stupidest man in the world," cried Jason, letting out all the pain, all the accumulated guilt. "I was so blind. I wanted to give you luxuries. I wanted to show you off. I wanted you to live like a queen, and I put you in the wolf's mouth. I let that woman treat you like a slave. I am to blame. I broke you. If you had died, I would have killed myself. Mom." Mary raised her hand full of IV lines, cables, and old bruises, and caressed his dirty and tangled hair. There, my baby, don't cry. Hush, hush." In this raw moment of vulnerability, we witness the heavy price of Jason's blindness and the unconditional grace that only a mother can offer. He has stripped away the wealth to find his humanity, but the true healing and the heartwarming life they build from the ashes is a transformation you won't want to miss. Love sometimes puts a blindfold on our eyes. You only wanted the best for me. You didn't know. She was a good actress, and look, God took the blindfold off in time. God opened your eyes, son. That is what matters. We are alive. We are together. The following days were a spiritual transformation for Jason. The great businessman, the arrogant engineer who moved millions with a call, learned the true meaning of service and humility. "I have to go to the bathroom, son." "Call the nurse, please," said Mary with shame, trying to cover herself with the sheet. "No, Mom, I'll help you." "No, what embarrassment. I am your mother. You can't see me like this. It's a shame. You wiped my butt thousands of times when I was a baby. Mom, you took care of me when I had chicken pox and vomited everything. You carried me on your back when I broke my foot playing football in the field. Now it's my turn. Don't be ashamed. I am your son, and it is the greatest honor of my life to take care of you." And so Jason learned. He learned to change bedpans without making faces. He learned to clean his mother's wrinkled and delicate skin with warm, wet wipes with delicacy, talking to her softly about nice things so she wouldn't feel humiliated. He learned to put cream on her dry heels and massage her tired feet. He learned to comb her long white hair, untangling with patience the knots that had formed from the abandonment of those terrible days. One afternoon, while he braided her hair in front of the window, Mary sighed, looking at the gray and polluted sky of the city. "I miss my chickens, Jason. I miss the smell of wet earth when it rains back on the farm. Here it smells of medicine, plastic, and sadness. Back in the town, even if it is poor, the air is free, and you can see the stars at night. Here there are no stars." Jason stopped with the brush in his hand, looked at his mother in the glass reflection, looked at the concrete buildings outside, that asphalt jungle he thought was success. He understood everything in that instant. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about having the best house in Paradise Valley, nor the most expensive car. It was about peace. "I promise you one thing," Mom said Jason firmly, looking her in the eyes through the reflection. "Never again are you going to wash in the river. Never again are you going to be cold. But you aren't going to stay in this city either. That house, the mansion, has been for sale since yesterday. I already signed the papers. I don't want to step in it again. And where are we going to go, son? Home, Mom. We are going to Arizona, to our town." That night, while Mary slept peacefully for the first time, Jason checked his cell phone. Social media was an uncontrollable forest fire. The video titled, "The True Michelle," was everywhere. It had millions of views. The comments were ruthless, thousands and thousands of them. "Witch. I hope they do the same to her, that she rots in jail and they throw away the key. I know that lady. She is an angel." What rage to see how she treated her justice for Miss Mary Michelle was finished. Her father, the politician, had released a public statement disassociating himself from her to save his career. Her bank accounts were frozen by Jason's lawsuit. She was in the women's prison, in the protection area, because the other inmates had seen the video and wanted to beat her for what she did to an old woman. Jason turned off the cell phone. Michelle no longer existed for him. She was a bad memory, a nightmare from which he had woken up. His future was in his mother's black eyes. The return to the town wasn't in a second-class bus full of people and chickens. It was in a rented black Chevrolet Suburban, spacious, with soft leather seats and air conditioning. But this time the atmosphere was of celebration, of freedom. Jason and Mary were singing country songs at the top of their lungs. They stopped on the highway, at a humble stand, to eat biscuits and corn on the cob with butter and salt. "They are real good, son," said Mary, with color returning to her cheeks, staining herself with cream without fear that anyone would scold her or tell her she ate like an animal. They arrived at the town at sunset. The golden light bathed the bald hills, the cacti, and the dirt roads. Mary's adobe cabin was still there, at the end of the road, solitary. It was sad, old. The roof had holes where the rain leaked in. The door hung from a rusty hinge. Weeds had grown covering the entrance. "Oh, my little house fell apart without me," sighed Mary with sadness. "It's very old, just like me." "Not for long," said Jason, getting out and rolling up the sleeves of his designer shirt. "We are going to raise it, Ma, but to your taste." Without rare luxuries, Jason didn't hire pretentious city architects. He hired Mr. Jones, Peter, the town builders, his childhood friends with whom he played marbles, and he worked with them. For 2 months, the millionaire engineer carried bags of cement, mixed lime and sand, put up roof tiles, sweated under the sun, filled his hands with calluses and his face with dust. He felt more alive, more useful, and more of a man than in 10 years of sitting in an air-conditioned office. They transformed the cabin. They didn't make it a ridiculous mansion that clashed with the landscape. They respected its adobe soul. White walls, smooth and strong. A new red tile roof waterproofed, large fine wood windows so the sun and clean air entered, rustic clay-colored tile floor, but with radiant heating installed underneath, so Mary never again stepped on cold in winter. And most importantly, a luxury interior bathroom with hot water and safety rails, and a spacious and bright kitchen. Ma Jason showed her with pride on Inauguration Day. "You have a modern gas stove for when you are in a hurry, but I also built you your wood-burning stove with a chimney and air draft, because you say the bread doesn't taste the same on gas." Mary cried with happiness, seeing her kitchen caressing the new stove. Her life filled with absolute peace. Jason bought her 50 laying hens of the best breed and made her an automated coop that was easy to clean. "Look, son, the spotted one already laid a double egg," she said, every morning, entering the kitchen with the warm egg in her hand, as if it were a gold nugget. The healing didn't happen overnight, but day by day, the shadows of the mansion faded. Jason realized that the $10 million estate was never a home, it was just a house. This rebuilt adobe shack, filled with the smell of roasting coffee and his mother's laughter, was the only palace he ever needed. He didn't just rebuild the cabin. He rebuilt his heart. She got out of jail 6 months later thanks to legal technicalities and a lot of money her mother had to borrow. But her social life was dead and buried. No one gave her work. No one invited her to parties. She lost her luxury apartment. Her friends blocked her. One day, a former employee sent Jason a photo via WhatsApp. It was Michelle. She was working as a receptionist at a neighborhood gym in a dangerous area of Phoenix. She looked haggard, aged, without a drop of makeup, with a tight and dirty uniform. In the photo, a fat client was yelling in her face about a dirty towel, and she had her head down, humiliated, swallowing her pride. Jason looked at the photo for a second. He felt pleasure, didn't feel hate, only felt absolute indifference. "Delete it," he said, and continued watching his mother knit a scarf. 3 wonderful years passed. The best years of both their lives, years of laughter, stories, forgiveness. But time does not forgive. The damage to Mary's lungs, although treated with the best doctors who traveled to see her, took its toll with age. One Sunday afternoon, while the sun set, painting the Arizona sky purple and orange, Mary was in her rocking chair on the porch with a knitted blanket on her legs. Jason was by her side, sitting on a wooden bench, reading her the newspaper. "Son," said Mary, softly interrupting him. "What's wrong, Ma? Are you cold? Do you want tea?" "No, I have peace." Mary took his hand. Her grip was weak, her skin rice paper. "Thank you, son. Thank you for giving me back my dignity. Thank you for bringing me home. Thank you for loving me. Don't say goodbye." Ma. Jason's voice broke, feeling a knot in his throat. It's not goodbye, it's see you later. I already see your dad. He is waiting for me at the gate of the road. He came for me. Mary closed her eyes, sighed deeply, a long sigh that sounded like freedom and mission accomplished, and fell asleep forever with a smile on her lips and the smell of firewood, field, and love in her nose. The funeral was historic. Hundreds of people came down from the hills and came from neighboring towns. People Mary had fed with her sandwiches, people Jason had helped with works in the town. The grave was covered with mountains of orange marigolds and white roses. Jason, dressed in black, but with his head held high, stood in front of the simple wooden cross. He didn't cry with despair. He cried with immense gratitude. Rest, Mom, he said to the wind, moving the flowers. You fulfilled your mission. You made me a good man, and I fulfilled mine. I loved you and took care of you until the last breath. He turned around. Jason turned and walked away beneath the blazing red Arizona sunset, his heart filled with a strange peace for having fulfilled his duty as a son. He deeply understood that true wealth lies not in million-dollar mansions or vain glory, but in the contented smile of his mother during her final days. The story has closed, yet the lessons of karma and the sacred value of maternal love remain poignant and unforgettable. And you, what do you think about this ending? In the hustle of modern life, do we ever unintentionally leave our parents behind in pursuit of superficial glitter? Please share your thoughts and your own stories in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. Don't forget to hit subscribe today to join us in spreading truths that need to be exposed and profound life lessons every day. Love your parents while you still can.